Hello, welcome to part 2 of this Dalls Scala. If you remember in part 1 we recapped this amp and we had a look at it, and there was a few issues with it, with the sound. One was the tone control, which was absolutely dreadful, and the way it's been wired into this amp. So we're going to do some mods to this amp. We're going to get rid of that tone control and we're going to rewire it somewhere else in the circuit. So we're going to get this out of the cabinet and we get it on the bench so we can have a good look at the circuit and what we're going to do with it. Right, so we've got this out of the case and it's on the bench. So the thing we're looking at is this tone control here. So this tone control is going onto the grid here, and it's overloading it, causing it to clip. So we're going to remove that first of all. Now I want to try and move the volume control between the two gain stages, because at the moment it's before either of the stages, and that's not really a good place to have your volume. Right, so we've got this Scala ready to mod, and I'll just go through what we're going to do. So we're going to remove one jack socket, we're going to disconnect one volume from, because remember both of these volumes go into this first stage before they actually and then they go into the inputs afterwards. So we're going to swap that round, so the input's going first. So we're going to get rid of one jack socket, we only need one input. We're going to get rid of one of the volumes on volume 2 because we won't need that, and then we're going to make that a master volume, and then this hole here we're going to put a cathode bypass capacitor switch on the second stage for a bit of gumption. The gumption switch, I like gumption switches. Now we've got these two 470k resistors going into from those volumes into grid 2. What? That's a plan, Stan. What resistance are these pots? 500k. They'll pass. So 500k, 1 meg would be better, but we'll pass at 1k at 500k. We want to remove those. We need a grid stopper. Well, 47k we'll put in there, and we need a grid leak resistor for that first stage. We're only working on the first stage at the minute, and then we're going to fit the volume between the first and second stage, and we're going to do a 5F2 tone stack in this, just a tone 5F2 tone control thing going on there, and then we'll look at fitting this master volume in, and that should be most splendiferous. Right, I want to start by removing this first jack socket. Right, so that's the first bit done. So what we've done, we've come, ew, my finger keeps making that blink, I don't know why, makes it flicker. So we've used some screen cable, we've got there, we're coming down there from the jack socket, we've got the grid leak resistor. The reason I've not put it on the jack socket is because there's only 3 pins on it. So we've got that there, nice and solid. We're going into there, that goes through the 47k resistor there, and that goes in to grid 2. And there's a reason why I've got it in this box, because it's the only way I can stand it up with that big capacitor on there. We've done the first part of the mods. We've also done some other work as well. So if we look at this rectifier, bridge rectifier thing going on up here, I've put some insulation on the positive and negative on there because they're a bit too close to the AC for my liking. And also this must have had a rectifier tube in at some time, or a previous model, I don't know. And of course there's some spare pins, and I realized that pin and this pin, which has got the HT feed going to it, was an exact match. So I just drilled a tiny hole down the side, fitted that in. I'm not touching it because it's live at the moment, so it's running. Fitted that in, and now we've got a fuse in it, because I didn't have a fuse in it, so I got a 250 milliamp in there. And I've also put a 1 amp fuse in the plug as well, which has just brought it up I've made it a bit safer. Just have a look at the mods we've done. So we've got a grid leak resistor in there to ground. We've got a screen cable coming in there. That goes down through the 47K, straight into pin 2. Comes out the plate. We've put a new resistor. We've put a new coupling capacitor in there, 22 nanofarad. That then goes to there, where you can see the pin, where a pointer is. And then I've cut the track because that went straight on to pins 7. So I've cut the track, so it now it goes up the volume, comes out the volume, goes to the other side of that track and straight into pin 7, and that's easy as that. So that's got that sorted out. We've got rid of this extra jack socket. We didn't need that. We've got a Huel there, which we can probably utilize for something. So the next part of this job is the master volume and the tone control. So the tone control, we need to just get a bit of a diagram so we can just have a look, get the right tone control in it, get it wired up, and then we're just going to wire that master volume up. And you can see this amp is very quiet, apart from the white noise. But there's no humming on this. Remember, in the last part we put the virtual center tap on this and it calmed it down. We rewired all the filaments. That was one of the things we did in this, did all the filaments on it. And of course we recapped it. And if you remember, someone had connected a capacitor over the old one, which is a no-no. So we took all that out. And again, somebody's obviously put this rectifier on. You can see there, and again, so you see I've been through that with you, so we've done that. So we've done a few bits besides the mods, really. I just suddenly started looking at this and thought, do you know, that just don't look safe, and this doesn't have a fuse, and it was just ideal to put that in there. It looks a bit awkward the way it is, but it fits in and it works, and it's better to have that than nothing. So it's make do and mend, but it's in nice and solid, and it's a 250 milliamp. Should be enough, should be more than enough for this amp, should be more than enough. So I'm going to get on now and we're going to wire up the tone control, and then we're going to look at wiring up this master volume. And this amp then should be done, and then we're going to put a jack socket in the back, which is actually what Lee wanted me to do to this amp originally. I only came in to have a jack socket put in the back, and then we found the power problems in the last video, and then I decided the filaments, and we wired those, and then I just said to him, look, I'm going to mod this just because I can, and just because it'd make a good video. Right, we've got us tone in. That's a 5F2A. So he's done. So now it's the master volume that we've got to put in next. So we've got to cut into the circuit, and probably into the trace, to get that in there. And then we'll look at what other mods we're going to do, because we've still got this wheel here to make use of. We've got a bit of frying going on there. So I don't know whether that's one of the tubes or the tube sockets, but we'll give them another clean. So we are let's just do a bit of a test and see what voltage we've got. We've got on there 202 there. What we got on here, let's have a look at what we've got on pin 7. That looks a bit dry, that does. Oh dear, that made me jump. I wasn't expecting that. Right, that's pin 6 that's dry, so I think I'll just solder. That's just holding the socket in, but that is dry around the base. So we've got 282 on there at 240 volts. What we got, plate to cathode. Where are we? 1, 2, 3. 273 plate to cathode. What have we got on the screens? That's pin 9. pin 9. 265 on the screens. Let's get on and fit this master volume then. So how are we going to do that? Let's switch off. There we go. Let's just test these capacitors, make sure there's no juice in them. Yes, that's going down nicely. Let's just check the anode plate on here. Yeah, that's fine before I start tinkering in there, because the last thing we need to do is get a belt off it. Right, we're just getting in close now. So we're just going to have a look. So we've got 470 grid leak here. So that will be connected to pins 2, which is there. Yes. So now we need to look at the coupling capacitor coming out, and I think, I don't know what that says. Lemco. Does that say Lemco? I wonder if it tastes of lemon. The Lemon Company. I seem to remember hearing that somewhere, and I can't think where. If anybody knows anything about Lemco, then please let me know in the comments. Take that tube out now, it's cooled down. See what we're doing a bit better. So I think, I'm going to do a bit of a check. I think that that is the coupling capacitor, and it is. Yeah, pins 2, because of course we're going the opposite way around, because we're looking at it from the top now, so it's anti-clockwise. Yeah, pins 2. And if I'm correct, I'm just sounding this out because I need to be sure. Yeah, and that's coming from pin 6 there. We can't test on that very easily, not from the front. So 5k, I don't know what that is. 5 nanofarad probably, I don't know. I've never seen K on a resistor before. Probably have, but I think we'll just remove that, and we'll put a 22 in there. And then because what we're heading along the lines of a Fender Champ here, because you can't go wrong with a Fender Champ, can you? Well, not in my opinion anyway. So we're going to drop him in there. He'll go nicely. So we'll remove him. We'll put the 22 in there, and then we'll cut the trace and add the master volume in, and that should get us away, I think, with that. Shall we have some new cable on here? Yes, why not? We have master volume. We've got tone. I've got a gain control now. So that's the result. So we've basically turned this into a Fender Champ almost. I've just got to look at the second stage now, just see what coupling capacitors. Oh no, because it's a 22. Of course we've changed that. I've just changed that. So yeah, this basically now is a Fender Champ. The only difference between this and a Fender Champ is we've got 150 nanofarad. Also got a bit of microphonic tube. Got 150 nanofarad instead of a 25 microfarad. That's the difference there. But we can always experiment with that. But this is sounding, I'm enjoying this project. Don't often get a chance to mod things now, it's usually just repairs. But that's working well. So now bypass capacitor across the second stage on a switch to fill that hole there is what I'm planning. And I might just plan a 25 microfarad onto that, or perhaps we'll go 10, I don't know. See what I've got in stock. I think that'll be a good idea. I think that's my mobile phone. There we go, we'll move that. We don't need that on there. So yes, that's most delightful. Now somewhere, here we are, this is the mounting plate that I'm going to be using for the, see it's floating away there, it's because I've got the camera zoomed in. This I'm going to be using for the jack socket on the back of the cabinet, so we can plug an extension speaker into it, or we can plug the 4x12 into it. That's more like it. Get this blasting on the 4x12. But yeah, it's a bit frighty. I've soldered those terminals on the pins on those VARP tube sockets there. I wonder if it's that 12. I wonder if it's that 12 AX7 that's a bit noisy. Shall we remove him and see? Let's try this one. Let's see if it calms down any. That one could be a noisy tube. No, it's not. So that could be a plate resistor. I mean, let's face it, there's not much in here that can go wrong. Once you've changed the output tubes, it's got to be the resistors, really. Put new capacitors in there. I don't think it's the output tube. I'm reckoning that's the plate resistors. I think we'll swap those. We might as well, hadn't we? While we're in here, we might as well make a job of it. While we're at it, we're going to change this rather flimsy looking resistor that's been put in there. Yes, I'm all for having them off the board, but that's a bit too far off the board. It's a bit flimsy. I don't know who put that in there, but as Shaggy says, it wasn't me. Right, so we've got this switch on, and if we just press it, got loads of boost with that. It's a 2.2 nanofarad capacitor, that one. Because we've got a master volume in this amp now, we've not got to really worry too much about too much volume, because if you have a small amplifier and you want to crank it up, you obviously you don't really want it to be that loud. You want to be able to crank it up in small places, but because we've got a master volume on this, not really an issue now. And I'm going to try and fit a Russian tube in this called 6P15P. Now those tubes have got quite a high mutual conductance, high mu, and they give us a little bit extra output, which will be most delightful on this amplifier. The only thing I've got to do is get the screens down to about 200 volts, 220 volts. But we've got to change that resistor anyway, that 3.9k resistor that was that's been bodged in there, so we can change that, and hopefully we might get one of those to work. If not, we've got other ones to try. This, incidentally, this tube that's in here now, it's labelled Tube Amp Doctor, and it is labelled as an EL84, but they've left the reflector label on there, and it's actually a 6P41P, or is it 14P? I can't remember, but that is a Russian tube. It's one from the reflector factory. Behold this mess. So we've done a bit of experimenting. We've got quite a lot of frying going on there. I'm not quite sure why. So I'm going to have to investigate that. So we tried the 6P15P tube in it, and I couldn't really balance the screens up on this. It just wouldn't work. So I've got 6P18P in there, brand new. 12 watts dissipation. We have done a bit of juggling, and we've got a 4.7k resistor in there now. We had a 3.9 before, so that's not much difference. That's on this. That's the screen dropping resistor. We've got 14.51 volts drop across the cathode resistor for the output tube. The cathode resistor is 325 ohms. We've got 256 plate voltage, and that's giving us 10.8 watts, and that'll do for this. because we don't want to push that transformer too hard. It's not the biggest transformer, although it's only lukewarm, and this has been run quite a bit. So I'm going to solder in these components, remove all these jumpers. The mods are finished, and then we're going to have a listen to this on the 4x12. Right, we've got this Dalls Scala. I'm just going to do a demo of looking at the amp instead of me on this one. It's been a bit awkward this to finish off. A few bits and bobs we've had to do. So we've done quite a bit of work on this one to mod it, and we're going to have a listen to it on its own speaker, and then we're going to listen to it on the 4x12. So it's on its own speaker at the moment. So this speaker is an 8-inch Jensen. If you remember, we couldn't get this amp clean at all in the first part because of that tone, where the tone control was wired. Let's start to whip the gain up on it. Now that was a clean tone. That's got the extra capacitor on the second stage, which is 470 nanofarad. So I've gone really low on this one. It had already got 150 nanofarad on the first stage. Very subtle, that. So that's off. Now let's start and wind it up a bit on the gain, because remember we put a master volume on this. Just flick in the other switch now, the other capacitor. some of that off. Let's try it on the 4x12. Plug that into the back. This thing is loud. The Dalls Scala modded and running on the 4x12 via its extension socket. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link to a file which you can download, and you can have a look at all the mods that I've done on this. It'll probably just be easier than explaining it all. So anybody who's got one of these and it's not sounding very good and you think you might want to mod it, to give you a few ideas there. I've gone very small with the coupling capacitors on this amp because obviously it has no negative feedback on it, and it's just a little amp, but it sounds great for what it is now, a lot better than it did before, and it's been a fun project. So thanks for watching, and you all take care, and I'll see you all in another video. Bye bye for now.